Welcome everyone. In this video we are going to be making the Pippa pouch, and to make this you're going to need some t-shirt yarn, and this t-shirt yarn is a super bulky yarn. So what I have is some paint box t-shirt yarn in this nice blue color, so this is what I will be using, and I'm using a 15mm hook. But what I want to point out is that if your yarn is not exactly like this one, you can still do this project, because I think with t-shirt yarn there's a little bit more variety and you may not get something that is exactly the weight that I have right here. And I want you to know that you can still make this project. The size may turn out a little bit different, or you may want to adjust the number of stitches and rows that you do, but it's totally possible. So without further ado, let me show you how quick this version is. With our yarn, we're going to start by creating a slip knot and chaining 10. All right. 10 stitches is all done, and if yours turns out like mine and it's a little bit twisted, that is okay. A little stretch can go a long way. So once you have your foundation chain done, you're going to skip the first chain and start single crocheting in every other chain. So you're going to single crochet 9, but the stitch that you skip in this case actually counts on its own. And so we're going to say that we have 10 stitches in our width. So to finish the row, just single crochet in the remaining 9 stitches. Okay, once your first row is done, you're going to chain 1, and this counts as a stitch in our next row. So we already have our first stitch, and for the remaining stitches you are going to start using the waistcoat stitch. And the waistcoat stitch is like doing a single crochet, but we're going to do it into the body of our stitch. So we're actually going to go all the way down here and insert our hook and pull the yarn through, just like this. So do this in the remaining stitches. Our very last stitch goes into the top of our turning chain. Okay, got 10 stitches wide and we are 2 rows in. Now for the remaining rows, we're just going to chain 1 and turn, and again we're going to work in waistcoat stitches, but this time we're working into waistcoat stitches that we already did. So technically not normal single crochets, but it's the exact same principle. We're going to pull through just like this, and that's how we finish a stitch. All right, your remaining rows are simply repeating row 3 again, and I believe there's only 7 rows. Yep, so rows 4 through 7 are just repeating row 3, and you're going to create 2 pieces that are this size. All right, once you're done with your pieces, doing all 7 rows, you can bind off. But what I want to tell you is that I'm going to highly suggest you leave a tail when you cut your yarn. So for one piece, you can leave a tail that is about like this. And if you want to add a tassel later on, this will be a great piece to sew it on with, to connect it with. And for your second piece, I'm going to highly suggest that you leave a very long tail. This might be longer than you need, but a very long tail, 24, 30 inches, something like that, because I want you to use this to seam your pieces together. So once you have your tail for either piece, you can bind off. All right, now I have both of my main pouch pieces done, and it's time to put it together. I have the zipper that I'm going to use. You simply need a zipper about 8 inches long or so, whatever the standard size is, for about this length zipper. This is one that I salvaged myself, and I'm going to be using this one. I have my sewing pins here, a sewing needle, a normal sewing needle actually under here, and some hand sewing thread. We need to do a little hand sewing to get the zipper onto the pouch. And then our last step is actually to seam up the pouch. So to get started, you make sure that our pouch sides go well together, that they are in fact the same size. We should already know this. And I want you to imagine the zipper going right in here in the top of the pouch. What we're going to do is we're going to start by pinning it along both sides. So let's just start with this one. I'm going to actually put the end a little bit farther than I need it to be, because this, when everything is said and done, this is going to be sitting down in the bottom, or inside of the pouch, I should say, and the zipper will open like this. So I'm going to turn it over, or kind of look at both sides, and taking my sewing pins, I'm just going to pin the zipper to the pouch on the inside here. You only need a couple of pins. Probably don't need to use quite as many as that. And if your zipper is definitely way longer than you need it, I'm going to show you how to get rid of the extra. But first, let's look at this and let's see if this looks pretty good along the top of our pouch. I'm happy with that, so we need to pin on the other side as well. And if you want to do these two steps separately and sew this on first, you can. I'm going to go ahead and pin both sides at the same time. So with this one, we're going to do the same thing. This side needs to sit just like this. So you want to make sure that the edges of the pouch are lined up, and we're going to pin the other side of the pouch just like this, so it almost looks like an open book with the zipper in the middle. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure those are lined up, this edge, and then pin this along here. Okay, so with both sides pinned, again, I'm just going to look at it from this angle, make sure it looks pretty good. That actually looks really good. So now I'm ready to hand sew. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking our thread and threading a little needle. And if you're not familiar with hand sewing, you may need to do a little bit of review or a little bit of practice with this. But I'm just going to thread my needle, start with tying a knot at the end, That'll be good for now. All right, and I'm gonna zoom in so that hopefully you can see this as well as possible. But I'm gonna start sewing down one side of the zipper. When I get to the end, I'm gonna deal with all of this extra zipper that we have, and then I'm gonna go down the other side so that I end up back at the end of the zipper where the zipper pull is. You can do whatever kind of stitch works well for you. My stitches are going to be pretty big because I want to make sure that I'm grabbing enough of the yarn that's underneath. But I am not too picky about these stitches. I want them to be nice and secure. I'm not necessarily trying to keep them as neat as possible. But you do want to keep them in a nice straight line. And as you get to your pins, you can take them out. Once in a while, you'll want to put this right side out and really see what you're looking at. You don't want your stitches to be showing too easily along here. You want to have to kind of pull things back to see them. So I'll probably try to do mine a little bit smaller and tighter. And if you think ahead, you may want to get thread that matches your zipper. It's probably good that you can see my stitches really well, but on yours, if your eyes will allow you to do it and it doesn't mess with your eyes or anything like that, you can pick thread that matches your zipper. Okay, I've finished one edge of sewing my zipper. Very imperfectly, as you can see, but it is doing the job just fine. I'm happy with it. Now let's deal with all of our extra zipper here. I'm going to put another stitch in the zipper at the edge here to hold it nice and tight. And I'm going to go down just a little bit extra. And I'm going to fold the zipper over. I'm going to fold it over just like this, and we're going to create a little tab in our zipper and then cut the rest of it off. So I'm going to go through the zipper around the metal teeth with my thread, and I'm just going to put large stitches around that several times. I am about at the end of my piece of thread, so I'll go ahead and tie it off. You can make a knot here however you want. I like to do it this way when I have 2 strands of thread. Right. And now to get the extra zipper off, you can go in a little bit beyond the tab that you made and cut the fabric of the zipper all the way to the teeth, and then there you go. All right, and now we don't have so much extra. And when we seam up our pouch in a minute, that will be on the inside. But first, I need to add another piece of thread and finish sewing back down to here, so that's what I'll do. All right, I'm done sewing on my zipper, and now we get to the point where we actually get to seam this pouch together. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the zipper and then go ahead and put the pieces inside out so that you are you're able to see your stitches. And we're going to use the long tail that we left to seam up our work. So pull this out to where it was. And I'm going to use my H hook here. So I'm going to use a much smaller hook so that this is easy. And I'm going to start by simply pulling the yarn through on the other side. And you want to kind of keep it, keep this above any extra you have, because this is going to stay on the inside of the bag. So I'm going to pull this through. And that's our first stitch. I'm going to go ahead and keep going down the edge, however it seems best to pull the yarn through. And you can check by looking on the other side once in a while to make sure that it looks okay. But you want to do it in such a way that you're closing up any holes as best as you can. Okay, so far that is looking pretty good. Now from the outside, if I hold this nice and tight, I can kind of check and see what it looks like on the outside. And that's looking okay. So now I'm gonna go right on into the bottom. Let me just hide this end really quick. All right, I'm gonna keep going along the bottom. Now if it works along the bottom, you can use these loops that were your foundation chain and just go right along these loops. All right, once you get all the way back around to your other side and you're all done seaming, we can bind off. And I'm going to go ahead and hide this end in the stitches on the inside here. Okay, so now we're finished, but we just need to turn our pouch right side out. Our zipper's open, so we're just going to carefully push the bottom corners through the opening. Push them out a little bit, and there we go. Oh my goodness. You can test it with the zipper closed. Make sure you press those corners open, and oh my goodness, this is so cute. The only thing I want to do is add a tassel to the pull of the pouch. So what I'm going to do is create a tassel with this same yarn